Bonjour, soyez le bienvenu.
Merci bien.
Welcome. So we're listening to you. I think that our friend Taylor has already explained what the situation is. How can you switch from the digital economy to digital at the heart, at the core of the economy? With the our Center for Digital Business, we decided to look into this issue. How can global companies, those that were born before the digital economy, those that have a legacy, a history, can transform themselves and tackle a digital sector? So I suggest you watch this short video.
Digital is more and more adopted by today's companies. Yet we still don't know if it has a real positive impact on the growth and performance of companies. Is it a fact or a myth? How digital leaders outperform their peers in every industry. Capgemini Consulting and the MIT Center for Digital Business has analyzed over 400 major organizations worldwide to answer this question. Quantifying digital practices and maturity, examining links between digital maturity and financial performance, understanding tendencies in each industry is crucial to answer that question. First, digital maturity consists of two dimensions: digital intensity, the what; transformation management, the how. The two dimensions spell out four different types of digital maturity: digital beginners with very limited digital capabilities, digital fashionistas with many sexy digital initiatives but little management and therefore little created value, conservatives. They focus their investments and manage them very well. Digerati, who truly understand how to drive value with digital transformation. They combine a transformation vision, careful governance, and engagement with sufficient investment in new opportunities. So how's digital maturity linked to financial performance? Well, there's a significant and measurable performance advantage for those organizations that have a highly developed or mature approach to digital transformation. The Digerati outperform their industry competitors on multiple financial metrics: plus 26% in terms of profitability compared to minus 24% for the beginners, plus 9% in their market valuation compared to minus 7% for the beginners. The study also found that while there are different maturity levels by sector, there are digital leaders in all of them who are currently outperforming their peers. How can you become a Digerati? The research has identified common patterns for how companies build their digital advantage. The Digerati invest 100% on the transformation management intensity. They always have strong transformation practices in digital vision, governance, engagement, and business IT relationships. They make clear choices on what to transform, concentrating investment based on their own strengths and the dynamics of the competition. For example, Nike is the socially connected organization, and Burberry is the customer experience champion. Companies worldwide are already taking actions now, as it is a long transformation. So what are you waiting for?
Un grand merci à XPLI.
Thank you, XP, a small company, a small startup in camping. They helped us develop this video within a few days. So we have a few key messages from this world leaders, the global corporations, concerning the importance of a digital economy. First of all, digital leaders, companies that have actually built a true competitive advantage thanks to the digital activity, they're to be found everywhere in financial sector, in high-tech industry, but also in more traditional types of industry, in the manufacturing industry, or again, in a big pharma, in pharmaceuticals, in big utilities. Anyway, all companies that have a real heritage and are still willing to transform themselves. We have found a corporation that exploit mines in Chile, and they become digital leaders by reorganizing their processes. These digital leaders, you have them everywhere in the world. We thought there would be a difference between, for instance, the US and Europe in terms of digital leadership, and we couldn't find any such mismatch. There are a number of significant digital leaders in Europe and in France. The then these digital leaders are significantly more effective than the average of the industry, plus 26% more. When beginners, those that don't have a good grasp of the digital, are 24% less profitable than the average of their industry. And this is the case regardless of the industry they're in. Now, a third, these digital leaders have gone through an in-depth transformation process across the board, from the marketing department, transforming the customer's experience at selling points in the web, on the social media, social networks. Anyway, they have transformed their vision, but also transforming their operations. For instance, at Nike, you can order your own custom-made pair of shoes, your own colors, and it's going to be delivered to you within a few days. So the supply chain, the whole of the industry has been able to adjust and adapt. And then it calls for a different mindset in the way in which employees work together, the promotion, making the most of the employees' dedication. And then in order to become a digital leaders, you have to follow a number of best practices. The digital DNA company that they've been working on, focusing their investments initially. So there's a digital everywhere, but each company selects the particular topic or theme where they want to invest. They refer to Burberry, which is the luxury experience, Nike, the social company, the mining company in Chile refers to heavy industry. So these digital leaders choose their own perspective in order to focus their investment in that particular niche or sector. And then they steer this investment. They come up with a special type of governance. They share a vision. The board is recommitted to digital policy. They upgrade the skills of their employees. They try to make sure that all employees take ownership of the digital requirements, and they change their business models. They want to develop new products in the digital field. They want to make inroads into new territories. And the last point concerning the digital phenomenon, it takes a lot of time. You know, for world leaders, it takes time to go through this transformation process. So all of them initiated transformation programs that go on for years and years, and that would be my conclusion. Everybody feels involved, employees. We're not talking digital and the rest of the company. It's the digital at the heart of the company, so everybody on board, employees, men and women, are at the heart of this process. Thank you, Patrick Ferraris. Please stay with us because we're going to discuss the social aspect. Will the European industry will it be rescued by the digital industry? We have Marjorie and four guests. Let's welcome with someone who likes to be straightforward, MAMOU-MANI, who is the present chairman of MAMOU-MANI on re-industrialization via the digital industry. Numérique, MAMOU-MANI, has he seen any resistance to change? Novapost with Jonathan BENHAMOU will tell us what his perception is. Next, we have Christophe CUVILLIER, who is in charge of operations at Unibail. Digitization of call centers had changed the social environment in his company at France Telecom in Orange. So, of course, he wants to increase productivity, but not only that. So we'll get here a trade unionists, the CGT, a representative at France Telecom, MATHOREL. Listening to what Patrick Ferraris just explained, with a lot of good news. It's very good news, but especially European companies are not really up to par with the world leaders. I'd like to refer to the Gallois report, which was just been published in France. The word digital is used only on 5 occasions in this big book. Of course, Mr. Gallois uses another phrase. But you think that in 2012 we're still at that stage? How can this digital world and the non-digital world communicate with one another? Well, I've been really very pleased listening to everybody since this morning. Everything that I've heard so far is really excellent. For once, we're not having a classic debate on infrastructure or the legislation around new techniques, but we are already discussing the topic. I'm referring to usages, the use made of the internet. A number of surveys and studies have shown that, and this is unfortunate, but this is the situation in France, we are lagging behind in terms of using. I very much enjoyed the statement by the ministry, the Minister for Economy, for digital economy. I'd like to use a phrase used by Mr. Delevoye. He said, a politician, someone who thinks in terms of being re-elected, someone who is a world statesman, is someone who thinks in terms of changing his country. And I do hope that this is what we're going to witness in the months to come. Now, a few words about the Gallois report that we've read and appreciated. And we enjoy the fact that there was a feedback from the government to the Gallois report. The word digital is not really used frequently, which I think is a mistake. What else could I say? Now, I think that the digital industry should have been encouraged by the Gallois report. And I was very pleased because they had mentioned reducing the costs, and all of a sudden, disaster, because they're back to the routine of all previous governments, focuses, and of course the low income are bound to pay increasing costs. So that's a pity for small companies working in the digital industry. During the past 25 years, the growth of the digital sector is 4 to 5 times higher than the GDP, the French GDP. So you just said that you enjoyed the Gallois report. You read it, you find it interesting, but you find that there are too many references made to the digital economy. How is it, 2012? How can you explain that no link is being established between the lack of a French company's competitiveness and the use of the digital industry as a lever for growth? How can you account for this? Jonathan BENHAMOU.
I believe there's a problem with entrepreneurs in our countries. Trust, dialogue with governments, and I like the following measure in the Gallois report, freezing, in fact, the contract that entrepreneurs and governments have. One example. On the basis of what we do, before we had a general economic interest structure, having a fiscal deduction for a number of years. And 2 years ago, we were told, no, this is going to be taken away from you, that fiscal advantage. So we had to fire a number of people, 2 people out of 42, because our business plans were based on that previous contract. And I would like to make an analogy. I signed a contract on the payroll, so you're going to pay 1 payroll on electronic payroll, and that is going to be €2 the next year. I said, you cannot negotiate. This is what you do. You see the problem of trust? You can't put people in the face of what is done. You can't put people just in front of something one-sided. It's absurd. If upstream we came, very much upstream, the various groups of this country were consulted, which was the objective of the National Council. We don't want to reopen the debate of this is Franco-French, and many would not understand. But anyway, there is a lack of dialogue and lack of trust. And this Gallois report said, why don't we freeze all these advantages for 5 years to give more trust? Right. You made an analogy with the heart of your, the core of your business, making digital the payroll of conventional companies. Christian MATHOREL, from what you heard about Jonathan BENHAMOU on this wage, payroll and employment, what is the end purpose of digitalizing companies? You, as CGT union members, I do not represent only CG10 for France Telecom. I represent CGT union for the telecom sector. You see, that's a different thing. Anyway, us at CGT union, we do not share the terms of this Galway report. The only question that is raised here is indeed the question of the cost of work. We believe it is a nonsense. In the field of production, but that's not the topic of today's question. No. We'll think about it. Yes, but let me go back to what I have to say. It is a contradiction for me. In the field of production, it all starts by work and ends with work. So work is an investment. And why don't we discuss the cost of capital? But again, this is out of the remit of this symposium here. In the digital economy, now, yes, the question is that as soon as we have a problem, as soon as something doesn't work, well, job is the adjustment criteria. So, of course, we raise the question when digitalization in a company, what's the end purpose? Digital economy is being disseminated across the business economy everywhere. I mean, that's what's that end purpose? What's that finality? Is it a good thing? Of course it is a good thing. But any revolution comes along with social progress for us. And the question is still open. So technology does not satisfy this element of social development. That's the end purpose. Are we putting digital economy at the service of the needs of populations, a job, i.e. wage earners, or will it be a financial strategy, in which case companies working, major groups? Because the question, in fact, is that of competitiveness. So look at the SMEs, fabrics. We haven't yet discussed this point. So the question, I said, is the strategy of the major groups. And of course, for us, what we see today is that we stand in between. What are we going to see? Are we going to have, the working condition completely deteriorated or what? That's the question for us. You're being a patient, Guy MAMOU-MANI. No, that's a French problem. It's a problem for France. When you say that, at the presidential election, no one discussed the digital economy because immediately then we say, oh, well, if they discuss digital economy, they're going to discuss less employment or firing people. It's just the opposite. Whenever there is industrial evolution, you see job redundancy in the short term, all right. But there's such a momentum, a dynamic setup, that you have 10 times, 100 times more jobs created, which is the answer to your question. So you should have a long-term vision. Of course, back to that same vision, long-term. It's not 3 or 4 years. It's more than 5 years, much more than that. And France is getting behind. You see that in the graphs that I just presented. Let's not be in a resistant economy. Let's be in a proactive economy, proactive attitude. What's the end purpose? We know, but do not block that development. Patrick, is that a cultural problem? Is that a cultural element? We have not found, Christophe CUVILLIER said, we've not found the fundamentals in our economy. We know there are preconceived ideas on the state, there are other elements in other countries, but this does not appear in the figures of the companies. That's number one. Number two, in my answer, the most digitally mature companies are those who have a different social approach. You cannot be satisfied with just looking at the economic approach of the phenomenon. No, this digital economy goes within the company, changes it, and then the approach must be different, socially speaking. Or either you buy in it, and you buy and you build and you system and the economy and the company profits by it, all things are contradictory like before. The difficulty is to find the right balance. Blocking factor then? Does it come from the staff? Does it come from the management? Christophe Cuvillier, you represent Unibail-Rodamco, you're the general manager. To resist competition of trade, you had to turn digital. Did you really turn digital? Are you having your own digital revolution, by the way? Well, reacting on the figures as presented by President Delevoye is surprising. 45% only far behind other countries. In France, consider that the digital economy has made, in fact, their life better. 45, very, very little. So the question is, what about the 50 others? Did they answer, I don't know? Did they answer, no, not better? Depending on the answer, we'll have a different landscape. Is it a problem of not knowing? Because maybe the French are less digital addict, less open to digital, or are they more resisting digital economy? It's not the same thing, you see. I'm flabbergasted just to hear how unquestionably we see digital economy across companies creating a value, creating momentum, creating hope. It's job, it's hope. Companies which are set up outside France, more than in France, have set up tens of millions of jobs. What are we expecting to go and send the union managers, union members to other companies so that they would know, in fact? What is it? Well, why don't we organize a mission study abroad then? No. Have you ever been in the Silicon Valley to meet your counterparts from the union? Ask your union, therefore, to send you to your Silicon Valley as soon as possible, which does not prevent him from having a clear vision and a respectable opinion. No, I'm telling this on the humoristic note. But opening up your eyes, I was at the FNAC company, and I sent my works council there. In 2000, based on the PPR chairman who said, I'm going to go into the digital revolution. That's what he said in 1999. But he said, I'm going to invest 1 billion francs. I was in a company who was leader of his sector, very conventional. And I decided to leave that conventional company to go to a digital-oriented company, which has other difficulties now. A precursor, the word. You see how they created jobs, and the mobility of the staff went to innovative companies. They look into the future and not to the past. This is what we try to do with Unibail-Rodamco. And despite those who oppose digital and non-digital, like they did at the FNAC, it's not either the one or the other. It's the one and the others. And the brands who join us in our shopping mall create that momentum, that opportunity to have new things, introduced in their business life, and they become multi-channel companies. I mean, practically you digital the customer relationship with Unibail-Rodamco. Are you digitalized yourself? After others, but it all started. When I joined, we only had BlackBerries, so I said to take a photo of this shopping mall with BlackBerries and send them to 10 people to solve problem. This is difficult, so we've turned to something else. It's one way of changing. We all have our smartphone, we all communicate, maybe too much. You have to educate people in communicating properly, but it's so quick in the way you can do things. We've merged two companies, Unibail in 2007, Rodamco, Dutch company. We're finalizing putting at the same level of their IT system. Unbelievable how, we were in 12 countries. System we've turned to the modern communication platform, swifter in the decision-making process, are more profitable than those who have not. Jonathan, I'll come back to you. But then your job, Christian, it's just, the surface floor. What's the impact of digital economy into your work life and jobs? In the way we run, in our company, it's more quickly. Even our chairman wrote something about being quicker, swifter. Unbelievable the way it changes. IT must be communicated immediately, and decisions are taken immediately. Of course, it takes quick decision-making time, but maybe this is the first we were. Maybe this is the reason why we're the first in our sector, our shopping mall, quick decision center, quick decision-making, and quick execution. And then the logics behind, the rationale behind to teach people. And that is so for our customers, that digital relationship. We launched for each of our centers a communication info platform with Google, with smartphones, so that we can now have in each customer to have their shopping mall in their pocket. We have the application as to the brands, the marketing aspect, loyalty cards for customers, webcam, vistas on traffic, everything. That's not digital in a cosmetic way. It's a digital for you to check everything. It's a question of survival and development. Thanks God we have the real estate, but it changes very rapidly, I must say. It is real. We have growth rates that are very positive with our brand company just because we support their growth with permanent energy that we put in this shopping mall, new brands, new tools for our customers. It's a one-to-one revolution, which is the very first time for us that we can directly discuss to each and every of our customers. And then we have to go via the brand through. Before we had this wonderful advertising campaign, very costly, but too long. Jonathan BENHAMOU, what do you do when you go and see a customer? You meet customers such as Christophe, CUVILLIER, others. How is that transition period, transformation done in terms of educating customers? Unibail is not going through this type of system. They're not our customers, not yet. But going back to what you said that potentially it was the fault of the unions if we were not progressing, and that digital economy did not resist that speed. I have another vision myself. Unions are potentially our best allies. What is not good is the approach or the difference that the company managers have and the access as a tool, digital tool, of your colleagues. I often hear company managers telling us, I do not want to sell everything via the electronic platform because my workers in this site, my manufacturers in another site, do not have access to the internet. This is what I hear very often, you see? So there's a difference between top management and the site. 75% of the French people have a computer or they have access to the internet. And when you hear to, dematerialization of the payroll in companies, I have a company which is one of the subsidiaries from IFP, 1,000 jobs, 950 have a computer. 75% dematerialization, i.e. 75% workers decided to have their payroll via the internet and not dematerial. Who receives the billing via electronics? Let's do it. Let's do it. Who receives the bills by computer? The water and power. Who receives, in fact, electronic statement of account or banks? Telecom invoice, electronic. Okay. Who did not raise their hands? You see? Digital is everywhere, everywhere. So let us stop saying that people do not believe. Well, we have 4 people speaking at the same time, unfortunately. Christophe, we'll revert to you in a short while. But, this dematerialization as seen by the employees. What do you think about it? Christian MATHOREL. Could we just say something? CGT Union for 30 years says optic fibers should be to the meter of the subscribers. To the subscribers. Okay, so you want a precursor? Yes, fiber optic was developed 30 years ago. The problem, what happened, I can tell you, We had the development of Minitel. Well, Minitel is obsolete today, but it was a revolutionary tool which was made available free of charge to the population at large. And this already giving development. Could we do it today? No, because it has to be profitable. The question was not to be profitable or not with the Minitel. With the Minitel question were raised differently, and I can tell you that we already said fiber optic could be a factor of growth and social progress. We said this at my union. So we're not opposed to everything? Of course we're not opposed to development. We're not opposed at all to digital development. But the question, otherwise it would be meaningless, it wouldn't be a social progress. The question would be, what about the use of it? And what you say is right. There are obstacles in the way digital is used in the companies. Call centers, IT systems, how they are used. Call centers, let me tell you, call centers. They must remote the call center. The most we're losing. It's the question. Would you like me to tell you a couple of stories? Would you like me to tell you a couple of stories? Yes, this is the modern time Charlie Chaplin applied to the current situation. You have no telephone. Do you believe you're going to have someone who is, from your own internet supply? No, it's someone who's located, in the middle of nowhere, on the other side of the world. It's the way the tool is being used. Is it the way the tool is poorly used? No. It's very well used, too well used for the end purpose. Yes. Against the objective, which is that which was given to it. And again, in the call centers, the relation between the operators is so competitive that it's done to the minute. And we must be able to measure how many minutes a day an operator in a call center spends with the customer. It's a race. As many customers as you have with the smallest possible time period. This is what is needed. Well, that's the base of industry. It's not the base of digital. I'm discussing working conditions, says the union man. Are we reinventing digital? No, let me conclude on these call centers. Someone who believes that you're in contact with someone from a call center. No, that person is reading from a list. And if you put another question, he can't get away from his or her list. You have, 15 minutes per week to go to the toilets, 15 minutes per week, and above beyond, it's your working time. Don't laugh, it's true. So people had more time to go to the toilet? Of course. What about the plants in the site? Listen, let me tell you. Thank you, Google. Thank you. We're back to real life. We started on a vision of digital, and we're back to real life. This is how, in fact, the union manipulates. As long as we discuss digital progress, what we see is, counterexample. Thanks to the digital economy, you can save jobs in France. We're going to retain our plants in job. We're going to improve the quality of work in France. If you want to go back to mine exploitation, there was no digital economy in the mine, and life was not too good, was it? Let me tell you again, says the union man. On Thursday, SFR is going to give you a redundancy plan issued in the press. Bouygues behind. All the operators are looking into this. Direct jobs in the field of telecom since deregulation show a negative line, 30,000 jobs. Telecom, direct sector. So don't tell us you're having more jobs. That's not digital you're discussing. 750,000 jobs created in the last 10 years. Christian, you say you believe in digital? Of course I believe in digital. What about call center? That's not the topic of today, but anyway. Digital economy could improve the working conditions in the call centers? How? Tell us how. Well, the question is It's our contact with the employees and then purpose of their work. Digital economy could be used to improve working conditions and thus have more jobs, but cutting down the number of hours worked. Let me tell you that today we say free on the market. We're going to lose millions of jobs. That's what the operators say. Are you discussing France Telecom or others, or maybe others? We said that we have a fourth supply, so we've lost millions of jobs. So we want to have less people in the staff. Well, this 1,000 call could be taken up to improve working conditions in other, and the staff who spend very little time on free time. Just listen to the call center people. There's a pressure behind to spend as little time as possible with you. And that's the digital economy. They have such a complexity of jobs to do in these 15 minutes because more and more services are marketed, hence sold via the telephone, that you don't give the means, even on training, to these call center people. They're not trained enough to answer adequately or provide an adequate answer to their customers, as when they could be used to improve working conditions. Well, time is running very, very rapidly. I see 8 minutes left. So digital economy, we started reindustrialization by the digital. Who is right, who is wrong? Patrick FERRARIS?
From a different perspective, i.e. the use made by companies of social media. You see, companies are making increasing use of social media. A number of large retailers in France and abroad share with their employees about the way in which products are laid out in the shop. So they're reinventing jobs all the time. Cashiers, I use the example of Nike. They're reinventing marketing. Consumers are reinventing marketing because they are part of the selection process or the designing process even. So you see, employees are creating a new type of collaboration. Real time has become an absolute must. It goes hand in hand with the digital economy. Now, concerning social networks, you're launching a new commercial center, a new mall, and you want to evaluate customers' expectations using Facebook. Yes, I never blamed the trade unions. All I said is that in France, we have a problem as to the awareness of the contribution that digital economy can make. And this covers everyone, politicians, consumers. It's not fast enough. There are too many reluctances and reticences. Now, if you want to change something in a group, in a company, it takes 1 year, 18 months. So you could set a deadline, 6 months. We wait for 6 months, and if it doesn't work, we'll try again. So, people around us are creating jobs, and we cannot replace those people. I share your concerns with the call centers. 1,000 jobs that SFA is going to lose. You should recreate this job because, of course, these people are not needing anymore where they used to work. They're going to move somewhere else. So we have to create jobs in the digital industry. Yeah, we did open this center at Levallois. On the opening day, 6 weeks before we opened a Facebook page, we have 55,000 fans. 120,000 inhabitants in Levallois. So we have very few employees. There's 1,500, and the weight of our company is 27 billions. But all of us work a lot. We work a lot, but we do create induced jobs, and we have offices, so innovative companies can be housed in our premises. Anyway, social networks is a big boom, of course. I share Jonathan's views. It doesn't go fast enough. There are blockages. The managers are reluctant. They're afraid of security issues. If I open too many days, people are going to spend the whole time on their personal Facebook page. I think that, companies don't spend enough time training their managers and their employees in general to how to make the best possible use of new technologies. I think it's scary because it takes time and we don't have that much time ahead of us. As a matter of fact, we have 5 minutes before we move on to the Q&A session. Benoît Tabaka is making a list of all the questions we have from Twitter. So let's conclude on the education, need to educate consumers, and you need to bring a bridge between the professional world and the private environment. Do you think that things are changing? Let me go back to your question concerning the creation of jobs or loss of jobs. When we launched this study, and there will be other surveys, we referred to 750,000 jobs created in the digital industry. There are many induced jobs for each website being created. 10% are IT people, and the rest are people who store data or are marketing people. So don't forget this. Now, it's really a real industrial revolution. It's the third industrial revolution. It's going to change the whole panorama. Now, coming to the social issues, which are important. I put pressure on the authority because I think that the central government has a role to play. In France, we could improve the situation thanks to, according to the digital situation. I wrote politicians. I told them, you're going to be faced with problems. The only answer is via IT. Education, health issues can be solved or improved thanks to IT. Even, diversity in society. So we receive everyone. We can accept everyone, provided they are talented and they are ready to work hard. So this is a tool that can really transform our society from top to bottom. 3.7%, that's the share of IT to the French economy from the 2010 data from McKinsey. Well, yeah, we should speed up. We need to go faster. But part of the problem is investment. I like to say that we tend to under-invest, especially in networks. And there's no network, there's no IT. You can't have any digital economy without networks. In Europe, France ranks third in terms of network infrastructure, ranks 25th in terms of usage. So it's a very good thing to have network, and we need to invest more in networks. But if we can build motorways and people then use the motorways, what can you do? Well, we have motorways. We don't have smaller roads. We don't have highways. We only have motorways. So you need to invest. Yeah, you have to convince people, households, that they need to make a greater use of internet. And there is, again, under-investment. You're right when you say that our network is okay because we had an operator. In other words, the French government invested so that the network could be built and improved. Who is going to invest in order to expand the network? Well, competitors, they don't want to invest. Operators say, no, we don't want to invest because my neighbor will not like it. So local municipalities are paying higher and higher taxes or imposing higher and higher taxes. Well, you have companies like Facebook and Google, and they contribute nothing at all they don't invest in networks at all. Operators who get huge dividends in return. You see, it's pretty obvious. The situation is pretty obvious. So we have a problem with investing. You can't have it all, unless we develop investment in fiber optics and 4G, unless we go faster there. Well, we're not the last. No. But all you can do is benchmark. I use a different perspective. I want to assess the actual needs, the requirements. No. What about the user, the end user? Does the end user consider that we're good at what we do, or we could do better? Guy, do you think that this solution would come from government? No, of course not. I think that you've been explaining parts of the solution. Public authorities, don't forget we're in France. The government has a special role to play. I'm putting pressure on government for more dematerialization. Suppose the French government, Jonathan is laughing at this. Well, he can laugh. I invite him to be part of this lobby. Suppose the government said, companies say, okay, I don't want to receive any paper tax return. So they could decide this. What would happen then? Well, all companies would be obliged to go for dematerialization. And the results would be the same as with the tax returns. It's been a formidable success. The taxpayers, companies, everybody is using IT to send their tax returns. So this is for the room. Make sure that you have your questions at hand. In 2009, the Labour Code was amended, and the dematerialization of a payroll is part of the new legislation. So last week, I received an email from one of our users, customers, saying that the town hall of a locality or municipality said you can't pay your taxes by email. Now you have to continue. I'm highly optimistic. It's something that we have to take on board. I invite you to join us to involve Syntec Numérique in your committee so that we can work with you. Thank you all. Benoît Tabaka, what's happening with the social network, hashtag Big Tent Paris? What are they telling us? Good morning, Benoît. We're going to hear you. Yeah. Well, we received many tweets, many reactionary responses to what was said concerning jobs being created in the digital industry and the furnaces. Christophe said that you shouldn't nationalize furnaces, but create more jobs in IT. A word about digital steelmaking. How could we make sure that the digital industry can support the steel industry? So you refer to mining in Chile. What about the steel industry in France? Yeah, the mining industry in Chile. Of course, it's not something we thought we could improve, but what happened is that the Chilean company is reinventing the operations of a mine. Mining is a dangerous industry, and they are reinventing the operating condition, the environment, using digital tools, because all the tools they're using is connected. So, of course, it was not expected, and yet that traditional industry is becoming a digital one. Could you give the message to Mr. Montebourg in France? No, we can't work wonders. Now, there are solutions for all types of industry. I think that Olivier has really explained that there is something going on. I call it neo-industrialization. It goes like this. Instead of looking at how you can invest billions or try to protect jobs, it would be more advised and wiser if you looked at this process from a different approach, i.e. how can you use IT and digital tools to transform this? I'm sure there is a solution to that. I suppose that Mittal is looking at this. in order to maintain this steelmaking industry and to support it. Now, look at the industry, that the ready-made clothing. I've met someone. Their name is Smuggler. It's a company, and Montbourg was there 2 weeks ago. It's interesting. I encourage him because they still have a factory where they make custom-made suits in Limoges. Why is that? Well, they have a website. You enter your measurements, and then it's all digitized. And that's how they've been able to rescue this site in Limoges. When the Le Jabi situation was in the news, nobody ever referred to a rescue by digital means, and it was too late. So let's try and see whether you have questions in the room. A first question to our guest. Do you have a microphone? Would you rather use your smartphones to ask questions? Good morning. I'd like to ask you all a question on the dematerialization. What about the risk of a digital divide? What about purchasing power issues? What do you do with people that cannot afford the internet? People who are in, remote places in deep France and don't have a broadband, and senior elderly people who don't know how to use it. What about training them, educating them? So what can you suggest to move on with the dematerialization, making sure that everybody gets on board, even those who might not have easy access to internet? I think that perhaps that's where a public authorities, a government, should step in. Jonathan, a different answer to this. First of all, it's a good question. You can never impose dematerialization. You can't make it mandatory. You can't oblige your employees to get e-payroll. You mean to say that this is very much an individual choice? Yes. Which means that dematerialization is not a technical project. It cannot be a technical one. It has to do with how to organize change, and how can you make your employees aware that they should use the internet. So it's the digital environment. It's not just dematerialization. The objective would be to make sure that our companies become digital environments. So, it's on a case-by-case basis. And I think that the central government has a role to play, and they've done it. 53% of French nationals pay their taxes via internet, which is quite an achievement. Marjorie, behind you. Denis Marion, Association. You're the only one. You were the only one who raised his hand. Yeah, there's an explanation for that. I think that suppliers and customers, there's a deal going on. Same thing as between employees and employers. I think that when electricity, EDF, and other companies make profit out of intangible needs, so I think that sometimes, they ask us for so-called green reasons and greenwashing. How come you don't use the e-billing system? I say, well, I know that your e-invoice or your means a lot of money for you because there's no value date anymore. When I make a transfer, and of course, I should get the money immediately, or the money should be received immediately. What's the productivity gain for the users? Someone referred to users. Well, users, yes, we should discuss those with people who use the services on a daily basis. You referred to the digital divide. Now, it's been a source of debate for years. It seems that we have many motorways, that's true, but we don't have rural roads anymore, or very few of them. So back to your question, please, because it's a good one. No, in fact, I don't have any question. Still, two figures for Christophe CUVILLIER, 25% of buyers go to the shop and place their order on the internet. So what do you mean to say? Well, my question is, at some point, maybe you've already solved this problem. Now, what's the problem there? No, it's just something I've seen. 75 people who go to the shops will eventually buy. Yeah, you definitely use this. I wasn't sure whether you were aware of this rate. So 75 people never use internet, never ever. I mean, referring to the French population, of course. It's very interesting, and this might gently lead us to a conclusion. We have to conclude at some point. I'm referring to this equation, the IT as a gain of productivity, a lever for productivity for companies, but also for consumers and users. How can you solve this equation? Why are you constantly pitting one against the other? 25% of people go to the shops and then buy on the net. So what? Yes, indeed. And it's going to be 30% next year. I was the chairman of FNAC. More than 50% of the entertainment tickets are sold and bought on the internet. Entertainment industry is doing very well. So I think we can combine very fast development of internet. You can combine it with a good health of that industry and a low VAT rate. So I think that public authorities, central government must speed on. And they have to build more roads so that everybody has access to internet. The cost of access to internet is extremely low in Europe. This is why it's grown so fast. But also the driving license. It's very good to have a motorways and roads and a car, but you need to have your driving license. Solve the problem for call centers and develop and grow at the same time, and do it at the same time rather than one after the next. Productivity, should it not be something positive for the users? Yes, let me give you one example. In the health industry, we have problems. We're supposed to build more hospitals, and the deficit is getting worse and worse, and the quality of service rendered is going down. Now, we've published a white paper showing that a number of conditions, diseases, patients can stay at home, which is a good thing in terms of their patients' comfort. You can treat them better, so therapy is improved, and the cost go down by 2.5 billion per year. So this is the right approach, at least for the country. Now, to conclude, this is a wonderful situation. It's a digital revolution or nothing. Good shot. Last word for Christian MATHOREL. On the restriction, I think that some people are trying to slow down the development of a digital sector. 193 ministers going to meet in Dubai within a few days, and on the agenda, let me read the first two items: that government limit information which is disseminated via internet, and number two, they want a global monitoring regime, including the obligation to be supervised by those who send information. So you refer to development, but you also use this to restrict liberties. This is not admissible. The International Confederation of Trade Unions is very much up against this decision. So why did you stay with us? Because this is a very good transition with the second debate we're going to have after a short break. And make sure that you can digest everything you've heard so far. So the next debate will be on data and data and protection of data. And we'll see that we're going to discuss different types of data. How can we do to safeguard the consumers' security while not hindering the development of the digital sector. So I'll see you in a few minutes for the second debate of this Big Ten 2012 in Paris.